Liverpool is a Chelsea fan. I'm a Chelsea fan. He's a Liverpool fan. And it's Trent Alexander Arnold versus Reece James. First of all, I will say two beautiful footballers, one of the best footballers to watch right now, along with Cancelo. And for the United fans, I'm sorry, but please not ever put Van Bissaka in this debate. Please, that should absolutely end.
Not
Even
even
Kyle
Diego Dallo.
and
Not even Dallo.
Livramento are ahead of him. So coming, Uday brother, on this, I know you're a Liverpool fan. And in this, I will interrupt a bit in between because this is about Liverpool and Chelsea. So who will you prefer? I will also put the stats here as I've got. Who will you put up here, Trent or
You don't need
James,
to put the
and why?
Okay, yeah. So jokes apart, I think I'm not going to give you the Liverpool bias here. I'm going to tell you this for a fact. I don't even need to look at the statistics, but yeah, it's good that you have them ready. He has recently ventured into the top 3 fullbacks who have provided assists in the Premier League overall. Leighton Baines being 54 at the 54th point. Andy Robertson being at the 48th mark, and he is at the 45th mark. So he's the third most successful assist contributor in the Premier League, being a fullback. That's the first statistic, the first factor I'd like to give out there. Second, he's been nominated the PFA Player of the Year twice in a row, and he's been the most assist giver in those seasons itself, being again credible enough to win those trophies. Third, looking at the current season, I would consider that he is going to win this season as well. He might win another accolade, but he's currently on 11 assists, and his role and Reece's role is very similar. They are attacking fullbacks. They have to attack. They have to overlap. They have to underlap. They need to provide key passes. They need to provide long balls inside the box. So it all matters when it comes to what attacking output is coming from these players. Let's talk about Reece for a moment. Reece James has been a player I would consider him to be a little more injury prone than Trent Alexander Arnold. Not looking at what happened in the recent past, but he's had many problems with his legs, and his defensive output has been better than Trent over the seasons. In the last season and in the last season itself. But you need to understand this. Chelsea play with a back 3, and you have wing backs playing for you. Liverpool play with 2 people on a high line, Van Dijk and Matip. So it's very obvious that the right side of the pitch there's going to be a huge gap which is going to be left when it comes to Trent trying to cover that space. So when we see defensive output, Trent has improved this season massively. You've seen that in the past couple of games. He has not committed defensive errors at all. But I would give into this that okay, defensively Reece has been better than Trent last season. But overall, again, when it comes to attacking fullback, I think of Danny always. I think of Philip Lahm, who's been a little more conservative. I think of Roberto Carlos from the left. I think of Andy Robertson. These greats who are still playing. Some of them are still playing. Reece James doesn't strike a name in my head. He's not made a mark. He's not a great. He needs to establish himself. He's not amongst the top pedigree of fullbacks that we have seen till now. I'll tell you another reason for that. Can you show me? Do you have his statistics?
Yeah,
Overall
statistics. I put the region stats.
Yeah, no, not for this season. Overall statistics.
No, overall I don't have.
Has he been performing consecutively over the last couple of seasons? Have we seen him performing consecutively?
I think he has. See, he did perform. See, I think last season was his first full season because he was at loan at Wigan before, and I think in his second season at Chelsea, I think Frank Lampard did not bring him early. It was Cesar Azpilicueta, and then slowly, I think James started to come in. Last season, I think I will say one thing. I don't agree with you saying Chelsea have a back 3 because Liverpool also have 3 midfielders defensively in Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum, which used to give you more protection. While Chelsea have Jorginho and Kante. So we have an extra centre back. You have an extra midfielder in the middle.
No. But you need to see this. You need to go on YouTube, see this. Fabinho and Henderson are still ahead. They're still on the
I know they high line. I understand that, but sometimes at least when Trent absolutely bombs forward. If you see Liverpool right now, the current Liverpool matches, the last 3, you might be seeing that Robertson has not been that attacking that he has been in the previous.
He's been more conservative.
There's a bit more conservative now. I think I don't agree with overall Trent is very bad defensively because if you see the stats, Now, if you
Yeah.
look at the stats defensively, it's not very far away. Defensively, it's not like James is here and Trent is here. I think the thing that I don't agree with why you are saying that James is not in the category is because I think James has talent in his feet that I think overall, if you see the crossing ability, I think both of them are very good in that regards. There's no comparison between them two and the other people in the right back. Even Cancelo for me is very great, but the crossing ability of James and Trent is
Yeah.
absolutely out of this world. The way they two cross. I think James has one thing over Trent in his game that James Thomas Tuchel also played him in a back three, has a third centre back when we had to deal with Jimmy Vardy in the final. Now we lost the final, but Reece James was one of the better performers on the day when he absolutely kept Vardy quiet. So because of the body, his body is more stronger than Trent. I think we can agree on that. That he's built a bit more stronger than Trent in terms of the physique he has got. So he
Definitely.
handles.
No doubt. No doubt
So I
about it.
think defensively he can handle that plays a lot, and his dribbling is a bit ahead of Trent. But I will say one thing: attackingly, Trent is miles ahead of him. His long balls, his key passes per game, everything is far ahead of James. James is more like you can say a second version of Trent who has to show it consistently. He has to develop every year. I think Trent's first debut came in 17-18 season, if I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
He
And
actually
it's
came in 16-17 also, but then he didn't play
yeah.
much. He played
So I think
only
it's
for 2 or 3 games.
Uday,
But
if I'm right, it's his third or fourth Liverpool regular season now as a starter.
so 17, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22, fifth season,
Fifth
right?
season. So I think
You
with
need to
James, I think
understand. You need to understand the longevity, inconsistency has been there in Trent Alexander Arnold. When did
exactly.
people start calling him a world class fullback? They started calling him a world class fullback 2 seasons back. Why? Because he performed consistently in the last three seasons, recurring that, right? So, and this is his fifth season, and even though last season he didn't give in those many assists, we know why. We know why. He was injured first. Liverpool's entire squad line was injured. You know that too. So it was Henderson and Fabinho were filling in the ranks for Van Dijk and Matip and Joe Gomez and all these fake people who were sitting on the bench injured. So Liverpool
I
were
think
in
I
shambles.
will.
And
Uday, I will just like to make one point. Like in statistically, like I said, that Trent is better overall in the
yeah,
game passing and ability. I think if you see the stats of these two players, Trent this season has played more games, and Trent has 11 assists in 26 games. That is magnificent. While James has a bit more less assists, he has 6 assists in 15 games,
but he has
but
more
he has
goals.
5 goals. So I think if you see these two right backs, I think James' scoring ability is. I think Trent has good free kicks and set pieces. I think if I have to take set pieces, then Trent is better than Reece. His set pieces are an absolute beauty. I think open play, I think James is better a shot power than Trent. His hitting ability is out of this world. I think crossing, I can say both of them have good crossing ability, but Trent's long passes are much more
Yeah,
accurate and much more try than James does. So I think in passing ability, I will give Trent the upper hand. In terms of the set pieces, I will give Trent the upper hand. In terms of the crosses, I can say both are equal. So attackingly, I will say Trent has a more edge than James, while defensively, you can say James has a more edge than Trent. I do think I agree with your point that right now I won't say James is better than Trent because it's about longevity. But if in next 2 seasons also James continues performing like this, if next season he has 8 goals, 8 assists, and keep playing at this level, then after the season also he does well, then I think we can say that at that time comparison is very equal. But right now, as you said, longevity, I think Trent Alexander Arnold has performed well for 5 years in a row now. He was a pivotal part in 17-18 as a young kid who came out of absolute nothing and showed how a right back has to play. Because I can tell you one thing, 5 years back, if we were having this show, I can guarantee you, me and Uday will be discussing the right back should only be defending and not attacking. Trent changed the mindset of people that right backs can attack. It was only Philip Lam, Denny Alves that used to attack. Other than that, if I can remember some great right backs, they used to have more skills tackling, more desire, aggression. The flair thing, like Trent has flair of Beckham. He has the quality of Beckham, De Bruyne in terms of attacking responsibility. Even James has these attributes. Even Cancelo has these attributes which he did not have 5 years back. 5 years back, people wanted to have Van Bissaka over Trent in their team. That's how the world has come absolutely crumbling down. Now nobody wants Van Bissaka in the team. That's how world has changed. And that's, I think, big responsible for that is Trent. And even I will say as a Chelsea fan, right now, Trent is ahead of James. I will not have anything regard that. Trent is ahead of James. You should not be getting too much upper hand. James is better than Trent, blah, blah, blah. No, Trent is better, but James is very near. It's not like Trent here, James here. Just like Fernandinho, Henderson, this is a tight comparison, but on longevity, you have to say Trent. If Reece James continues proving like this, then yes, in 2 years' time, when me and Uday are again on this channel here, then we can say that yes, James might be better. But right now, I think even if defensively James is better, it's not like James is defensively here and Trent is here. It's not like you'll say James defensively is 10 out of 10 and Trent is 1 out of 10. That's not the case. So therefore, for me at the moment, it's Trent. But coming towards Uday, on this topic, what's your final thought? And overall, on the point you make that James is not in the major part, what do you think he has to do that he proves you that he will be in that category?
Okay. Uh, Final points and final comments of mine would be, first, you need to also consider the style of play. Why do you actually consider footballers like Cancelo and Kyle Walker also to be one of the most prominent fullbacks out there? The reason being because of the style of play, very direct. They like playing direct football. Kyle Walker will rush towards the final third if he's given an opportunity. Trent wouldn't. Trent would still contemplate options in terms of looking at if that person's standing on horizontally to me. Can I give a horizontal pass? Can I give a vertical pass? Can I give an incisive pass? Kyle Walker's game is more of going towards the final third and trying to give crosses or passes whenever possible. So, in that aspect, Reece still needs to establish his hold. I know he's also pretty direct as a football. He's very direct. Given a fact, if he's 30, 35 yards out, he'll take a shot. Shot taking ability, Reece has come out to score more goals than Trent. And again, I'll give that to the system. You probably might think again that I'm not giving credit where it's due. That's not the case. The case is the system of football that Chelsea were playing was with a wing-back role. But that is why Chilwell was also scoring so much. He was assisting so much before he got injured. You guys had your fullbacks being on the leadership charts in terms of the goal scoring. There was no attacker in that by November, December when you were leading the race, right? The title race. That was because your system was relying on the fullbacks, on the wingbacks. Liverpool never wanted those wingbacks to come into central positions and try to take shots from there. Obviously, when it comes to free kicks and all, I understand Trent is a master of free kicks as well. But Liverpool's game only revolved around staying on the tip of the box. Andy Robertson would overlap or maybe underlap. He liked underlapping a lot and giving in those long crosses. For Trent, it was pretty open. Trent was given that free role key. You go ahead and you want to overlap, you want to go into the final third, but you need to give a cross. It is the job for you to pass to Mohamed Salah or Sadio Mane. They have to shoot. They are going to be shooting. And you've seen Liverpool's plays have always been through Trent giving the passes to Mohamed Salah or someone or the other to take a shot. But I would still give this to Reece. I'll give a +1 to Reece for the shot taking ability. Because I've seen him taking shots. He's marvelous. He's amazing. But I wouldn't push Trent away from him. I would still consider him to be an equal, to be honest. Because Trent, given an opportunity any day, he can score from that far as well, man. You've seen if he can take free kicks from that far, I think he can easily score off an open play from that far. But yeah, I think if you consider Reece to perform in the next season and the season after that, if he gives us a good 2-digit assist score or a 1-digit assist score and a few goals, I'll consider him to be on par or still a notch below Trent, because no one can punch weight the way Robertson and Trent have together. You need to also see the pair of fullbacks is considered to be the best in the world right now. Alphonso Davies was being considered the best when Bayern Munich were smashing people inside out in the Champions League last season. But right now, I think Trent and Robertson are the epitome of attacking plays from a fullback position. Reece needs to maybe find a partner or whatever it is. But we also need to consider the fact that you spoke about long plays, you spoke about long balls. What about switch off play? That also needs a vision, right? You need to spot your plays out. I think Trent also has a better vision at the moment.
Yeah.
When it comes to switch off plays, you've seen he is someone who will all of a sudden change the game. He'll just pass it to anyone he feels like. So it's more about the system. I think if the system was a bit more reliant on, it was a little more reliant on the fullbacks, I think Reece would have had more space to, make better decisions.
So I think it's been like absolutely spot on for me as well. I've been also saying the same thing. That Trent's final output, I think, is overall in terms of passing. You just don't see GNA. You see his passing, his vision, his flair, his absolute thing. Like he absolutely finds the pass and the final output. His set pieces, I think he's just a complete package, which James isn't right now, but he could be in the next 2 or 3 years. So now this is about Trent and James. Me and Uday both agree that Trent at the moment is ahead of James. Not far away, but he is ahead at the moment of James. And I think we should not have the debates that James is better. Enjoy the development. It's always not about being better than Trent. Both are great players. Enjoy their
Yeah.
development and enjoy the way both are playing.